This video will explain when and how to apply a tourniquet to a person with heavy bleeding. A tourniquet is used to stop the flow of blood through a limb. This is important information for first responders and bystanders at the scene of a blast. It can help you save the life of someone who has suffered a traumatic amputation or heavily bleeding limb injury. Before we discuss the tourniquet itself, it is important to think about how we approach an injured person at the scene of a blast. In the immediate aftermath of a blast, the area may still be dangerous, and first responders can easily become casualties themselves as they try to provide aid. To avoid this, always follow the safe approach. Shout for help and call emergency services. Assess for danger and approach with care. Dangers may include further explosive devices, incoming missiles or gunfire, fire and building collapse. Free from danger. Is the scene free from danger? If it is not safe, retreat to a safe distance and wait or call for assistance. Evaluate. If the scene is free from danger, approach to evaluate the casualty and assist. Call walking wounded away from the scene. At all times, try to keep children with their parents or caregivers for reassurance and safeguarding. Once you have assessed that the scene is safe, the first step in care as a bystander or first responder is to check for and control heavy bleeding. If there is heavy bleeding, check where it is coming from. Is it a limb injury, a limb amputation, an injury on the body? A summary of how to control bleeding in these 3 types of injury is shown on the Stop the Bleed card, which is found in the Stop the Bleed packs. Tourniquets are used in 2 situations. In limb amputations, a tourniquet is the immediate choice for treatment and must be applied as soon as possible. For a heavily bleeding limb injury, the first step is to wrap a bandage or clean material tightly over the injury and around the limb. If this does not control the bleeding, a second bandage should be applied over it. If the bleeding continues, a tourniquet should be used. The tourniquet should be applied above the bandage and tightened until the bleeding stops. Remember, tourniquets can only be used on a limb. To learn how to manage a heavily bleeding injury on the body, please refer to the Stop the Bleed card. This is what the tourniquet looks like. It has a rod, a clip, and a white covering strap where you can write the time you applied the tourniquet. If you are using the Stop the Bleed packs distributed by Save the Children, a pen for this is provided. Later in this video, we will explain what to do if you do not have a tourniquet with you. Let's look at how to apply the tourniquet. Open up the tourniquet and pass it over the injured limb, keeping the long strap towards you. Place the tourniquet just above the wound or amputation, making sure that you are over a bone. The tourniquet is best used directly onto bare skin. The Stop the Bleed packs and other medical kits include scissors so that you can cut away clothing very quickly. Remember that you want to control heavy bleeding as quickly as possible. If you cannot cut or tear away clothing quickly, you can place the tourniquet over thin clothing. Ideally, no more than a single layer of clothing. Pull the long strap to tighten as much as you can. And then pass it under the limb to the other side. Rotate the rod until bleeding has stopped, then fasten into the clip. This may be painful for the casualty, but it is life-saving. Pass the long strap through the clip and over the rod. Finally, place the white strap across the top, fasten with the Velcro and write the time on it. Once you have placed the tourniquet, do not remove it. If the bleeding does not stop, a second tourniquet may be applied above the first one. Get to a medical facility as soon as possible. When you transfer care, make sure to report the location of the tourniquet and the time of application. The tourniquet should only be removed by the appropriate medical team at the receiving health facility. If you do not have a tourniquet, you can use a piece of fabric, such as a scarf, the casualty's clothing or your own, with a hard object, such as a stick, thick pen or metal rod, to achieve the same effect. Place the bandage around the limb, tie a knot and pull tight. Place the rod or object over the knot, tie another knot over it to hold it in place. Rotate the object to tighten until the bleeding stops. Secure the tourniquet by wrapping the ends of the bandage around the ends of the object and then bringing one end of the bandage around the limb to meet the other and tie in place. Don't forget to record the time that the tourniquet was applied. It is good to practice applying a tourniquet so that you can do this as quickly as possible when it is needed. Do not fully tighten when practicing and remove as soon as you have finished applying. Remember, always use the safe approach. A tourniquet should be applied to all limb amputations and any heavily bleeding limb injury that cannot be controlled with tight bandaging. Tourniquets should always be applied as quickly as possible, ensuring that you are above the injury and over a bone. Remember to record and report the time that the tourniquet was applied. Download the Stop the Bleed action card in English or Arabic from the link available in the description. For more information, refer to the Paediatric Blast Injury Field Manual in English or Arabic.